Good evening, and welcome to the Cabinet of Fever Dreams. Tonight, a tale of monsters, closets, and spaghetti. My Daughter is Scared of the Monster in Her Closet, She Should Be, was originally released March of 2021 and is read to you tonight by me, Mike J. Langer, with musical backing by Scott Buckley. If you want to support independent horror in the stormy seas of the algorithm, please comment spaghetti and like the video. Also, if you want our digital paths to cross once more, feel free to strike down that subscribe button and ring the bell icon. With that out of the way, plug in your headphones and crawl deep under your covers. The monsters can't get you there. Past the blaring light of the hallway, I could only see her silhouette.
"There's a monster in my closet,"
she said. My wife was more awake than me. She started to get out of bed.
"No,
My daughter said.
you don't go, Mommy. Daddy's braver."
Peter, hear that? Apparently you're braver, my wife mumbled as she slid back into the covers. I am, I said. The girl took after her mother with the overactive imagination. This wasn't the first time our daughter had woken us up in the middle of the night with abstract fears, and I feared it wouldn't be the last. As I dug my slippers out from beneath the bed, I convinced myself that with a bit of rational thinking, I could put an end to these 2 a.m. wake-ups.
"It's the Squiggle again,"
she whispered, dangling her legs from the bed. The Squiggle was just another in a long list of creatures that would hide in my daughter's closet. There were goblins, there were bears, and after a fumbled explanation of world politics, Osama bin Laden shared the closet space for about a month. That night, it was the Squiggle. She kept on looking at the closet door, expecting me to open it like I always did, but I didn't. Instead, I sat down next to her on the bed. "Can you describe the Squiggle to me, Annie?" I said. She looked back at the closet, as if she was asking it for permission to speak.
It doesn't feel real,"
she finally whispered. "Well, Annie, that's because..."
"It's like spaghetti, but with eyes, and it's on fire."
Her eyes were filling up with tears again.
It doesn't feel real. It's like a drawing that no one should ever draw. It doesn't feel real."
Annie, have you ever considered the Squiggle doesn't feel real because it isn't actually real?
"What does consider mean?"
she asked, wiping her tears. It's when you think about something really hard. It's when you think about something you thought was true, but you think about it really hard and you realize it's not true. The thoughts of the closet drifted from her face. She was no longer a scared child. She was a young mind trying to make sense of the world.
"Do you ever consider things?"
Yes, I said. All the time.
"And does it help?"
When I was about your age, your grandfather used to take me to the lake every weekend. One time, while we were out swimming, he told me that there was an angry octopus that lived inside of the lake that ate little boys. I got so scared I refused to get back in the water.
"And was there an octopus?"
No. Your grandfather was just playing a trick on me. There was never any octopus in the lake, but I didn't believe that. The octopus felt real to me. After hearing my grandfather's story, I was sure I could feel the octopus in the water. I was sure he was there.
"But then you considered that he wasn't there,"
my daughter said, thoughtfully. There was awe in her voice, as if I had revealed some grand cosmic secret to her.
"You considered, and you weren't scared anymore."
A bit of the summer breeze drifted in through the open window. My daughter no longer seemed scared. I felt like a good dad. Do you want to consider that maybe the Squiggle is just a figment of your imagination?
"What's a figment?"
It doesn't matter. Just consider that there is no monster in your closet.
"Okay."
She shut her eyes in concentration. For a moment, she struggled with her thoughts, but then her eyes opened. She smiled.
"Thank you, Daddy,"
she said. Outside the sky was a chaotic smattering of stars. Somewhere off in the distance, a police siren crawled into the night. I was the only one looking at the closet. Not scared anymore? I asked.
No, I considered the squiggle might not be real, and now I'm not scared.
Great, I said, and got up. Good night, Annie.
Good night, Daddy.
She pulled her unicorn covers over herself and shut her eyes. I looked at the closet. It was covered with cartoon horse stickers that had fused themselves into the wood. The closet would forever remain covered in ponies. It perplexed me how anyone could be scared of such a harmless piece of furniture. Hey Annie, I said, eyeing the closet handle. Want me to check inside of the closet? She sat up in bed, confused.
Why? There's nothing there.
Another rush of pride went through my lungs. The talk had gone better than expected. For old time's sake, I said. She laughed at me as if I was ridiculous for suggesting that something might be in the closet, but she sat up in bed to get a better view. I grabbed the handle and prepared to swing the door open in a theatrical fashion, but I couldn't. I was positive that there was nothing in the closet. I knew that the squiggle was just a product of my daughter's imagination. I even found the idea of spaghetti with eyes to be a bit funny. Yet somewhere, deep within me, a primal fear bubbled. I was consciously aware that the closet was empty, but there was doubt in my heart.
Daddy?
She asked.
Are you scared?
No, I said. I'm not scared. I pulled open a door and defiantly stared into the abyss of tiny dresses and coats. For a brief moment, my chest calmed. For a brief moment, my rational mind took control and chastised me for being overly dramatic. But then, in the darkness of the close, I saw a movement. I saw it. I saw that blasphemous monstrosity which confounded my entire perception of the universe. I saw that horrid nightmare pried from the depths of God's fever dreams. I saw the squiggle. The visage of the corroded flesh stole blood from my face. Its sickly eyes stared deep into my soul. My knees became weak. I couldn't stand in the same world that monstrosity existed in. The unyielding pressure of an incoming faint pushed my body off balance. Before the curtains of reality came down, I remember swaying towards the closet. My face became intimately familiar with one of the cartoon horses my daughter had attached to their furniture. With a dull wooden thud, I lost consciousness. I woke to the sensation of frozen peas pressed against my forehead. The lights were on. I was on the couch in the living room. Next to me sat my wife, one hand on the makeshift ice pack, the other gripped around her phone. Should I call an ambulance? She asked. No, I said. No, I'm fine. You're shaking. I was. The afterimage of the horror was still bouncing around my skull. The unexplainable madness that I had witnessed was still sending twitches through my shivering muscles. I'm fine, I repeated. What happened? My mouth felt like it was full of battery acid. There were no words to explain the ghastly fiend that I had seen hiding in my daughter's closet. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pray. I wanted to beg the heavens for some sort of an explanation to the cruel images that were seared into my mind. I fell. I finally said, I'm fine. Are you sure? Yes. She lifted the frozen peas off my forehead. Doesn't look like you'll need stitches. Good, I said. I wasn't there. I wasn't sitting on my couch being tended to by my wife. I was somewhere else. I was standing stark naked before a cruel world I never knew existed. A horrible blizzard of incomprehensible shapes was freezing my bones. I was a frail worm face to face with the Goliath of the abyss. I was nothing in a world that meant me harm. Yet suddenly, past the fear, past the soul-shattering features of the abomination, something recognizable took hold. A familiar worry grasped my being. I sat up on the couch. Where's Annie? Sleeping, my wife said. I came as soon as I heard the crash. The blood from your cut scared her for a bit, but she was tuckered out enough to fall asleep. I got up and moved straight towards my daughter's bedroom. My fear of that horrid creature had not passed. With every single step towards her room, my jaw clenched tighter and tighter, but my legs carried me regardless. I needed to make sure my child was safe. She was lying in bed, deep in her dreams. The unicorn covers were pulled over her face. Her closet was shut. "Are you coming back to bed?" My wife's touch made me flinch. I couldn't keep my eyes off the closet. There was a dark spot where my forehead met the furniture. "I'm going to clean up the blood," I said. "Don't wait up." "Are you sure you're fine?" "Yes," I lied. The damn cloth from the kitchen didn't make a difference. It was too late. My blood had soaked into the cartoon horse sticker. The red splotch would be a permanent feature of my daughter's closet. It would always remind me of what I had seen. I considered whether the creature that I had witnessed could have been a byproduct of a lack of sleep, but the thought refused to take hold. The body of the creature had managed to seem both impossible and unavoidably real in the same stroke. I knew that I could not sleep unless I convinced myself the horror had not been real to begin with. With my mind turning faint, I touched the handle of the closet. My vision was starting to blur. A familiar sound of static started to buzz around my ears, but I didn't let go of the closet door. I needed to confront reality. I needed to believe that the squiggle wasn't real. The empty closet did not lighten my heart. It simply reminded me of what I saw. It simply made the memory of that burning bush of flesh and eyes shine brighter.
"The squiggle ran away."
She looked at me from her unicorn bed. There was a calmness in her voice which suggested the hellspawn we both witnessed wasn't a thing worth worrying about. "You saw it? You saw that thing?" She nodded her head.
"After you hit your head on the closet, it crawled over you and jumped out of the window."
"Crawled over me?" I yelled, louder than I should have. I could hear my wife switch on the night lamp in the bedroom.
"Yes,"
my daughter replied, casually.
"the squiggle went over your tummy and out of the window. It's okay. It's not real."
The thought of those wet strands of flesh crawling over my body made me feel incurably violated. My abdomen was no longer my own. It belonged to that horrible nightmare. "But you saw it?"
"Yes."
"And you're not scared?"
"No,"
she said, smiling.
"I considered where the squiggle was real, and now I'm brave like you."
I wanted to grab her and tell her that she should be scared. I wanted to tell her that what she saw, what we both saw, was something that should inspire wails and despair. But her innocent smile made me turn away. Her fragile mind had made peace with the squiggle. I was the only one being haunted. "Good night, Annie," I said, closing her window and locking it.
"Good night, Daddy,"
she replied, descending back into her blanket. My wife was standing in the doorway of the bedroom, concerned. I told her I couldn't go back to sleep. I told her I needed to be alone. I told her I was going to go watch some television. The screen is tuned to the static of a dead channel. The ashtray is full and the bottle half empty. We live in a universe that means us harm. We live in a godless world where unearthly abominations hide in little girls' closets. Regardless of how much I drink or how hard I try to rationalize, I cannot convince myself otherwise. All of the windows in the house are shut and locked, but I can hear the birds starting to sing outside. A new day is starting, but I am unable to face it. I cannot carry on knowing that that thing is somewhere out there, crawling through the grass. I drink more, praying that the liquor will help me forget. I drink more, desperately hoping that I will be able to convince myself that the abomination was a trick of the eye. I drink more, knowing that it won't help. We'll return to your regularly scheduled programming after a brief thank you to the sponsors of this madness, the patrons. Huge thanks to Bob Condork, Dante Kincaid, Joyce, Matt, Mr. Creepypasta, Paul, Paul Evans, and Shion for supporting the Cabinet of Fever Dreams. If you'd like to join these illustrious patrons of the Bohemian Arts, drop by patreon.com/MudJLanger. And now, back to our regularly scheduled programming, the second chapter of the Spaghetti Monster trilogy. I have returned. Last week, I came to this dreaded corner of the internet seeking help. I told all of you faceless strangers about the horrors that were hiding inside of my daughter's closet. I shared the story of the tangle-limbed abomination I had witnessed with you in hopes of finding an explanation for my suffering. I wish I hadn't. The comments that you have left below my plea for help made me sick to my stomach. You called the creature friendly. You said I was lucky to have witnessed the spaghetti monster. You claimed I was blessed. I do not know from which demented corner of the globe you hail from, but you are all gravely mistaken. If you would have seen what I had seen, if your eyes would have gazed upon the blood boiling beneath those tentacles of flesh, if you would have looked into the orchestra of lifeless eyeballs that stared at me that night, you would not have called the beast friendly. You would have not called it anything at all. You would have been rendered wordless in terror. I am not a blessed man. I am cursed. I am cursed with the knowledge of that blasphemous being made of fire and flesh. My daughter calls it the Squiggle. But whatever the true name of that creature is, it is never to be uttered by mortal lips. When I read your ridiculous assertions last week, I promised myself I would never set foot in this corner of the digital realm again. But I have returned. The only thing that has kept me sane over the past week has been the thought, the hope, that seeing the gruesome monstrosity was a once-in-a-lifetime flash of terror. Each night I prayed that I would never be faced with that wiry creature of flame ever again. I almost start to believe that one day I will forget that terrible sight. But tonight, those illusions were crushed. I've seen the creature again. I've seen the creature again, and screaming my witness into this pixelated campfire is the only way that I can hold on to the shreds of sanity I have left. Annie, Daddy is tired. He can't come right now. I was waking from a restless sleep. Reality was numbed with alcohol and sleeping pills. Yet past the muffled emptiness of my soul, I could hear my wife. If you're scared, then I can go. But Daddy needs to sleep right now.
No,
I heard my daughter say.
I need Daddy. He's braver.
Past the blaring light, I could only see her silhouette, a glowing black angel of horrors to come. Is it the Squiggle? I asked. Pete, don't. You need to sleep. You need rest. I ignored my wife. The chemicals in my blood dulled the fear. Is it the Squiggle? I repeated.
Yes,
my daughter said.
the Squiggle is hiding under my bed and I'm scared.
I leapt to my feet and stomped my way to the wardrobe. My diminished mental state freed me of rational thought. Deep inside I knew that the enemy I was about to face was beyond my means. In my heart of hearts I knew that no amount of violence would have an effect on that glowing nightmare. Yet my primal brain took control. I wanted to protect my family. I wanted to protect my child. Jesus Christ, Peter, what the fuck are you doing? My wife yelled. I'm going to put an end to this. She looked at me like she was about to scream again, but the sight of the short silhouette in the doorway tempered her emotions. Have you lost your mind? What is the bat for? I gripped the aluminum club in my hands. To put an end to this, I said. I'll be back shortly.
Daddy?
She asked as we stood in the doorway to her room.
Is the Squiggle real?
No. Annie's brow furrowed.
Then what is under my bed?
I don't know. The room was still. In the pale moonlight it looked calm even. Yet the remnants of blood on my daughter's closet stirred chaos in my being. For a moment I considered turning back. For a brief interlude in my adrenaline-addled madness I saw reason. But the anger soon rushed back. There was a creature beneath my child's bed. It was a danger to my family. It was a danger to my sanity. It was an affront to the pure fabric of reality. I vowed to destroy the crawling fever dream through the most primitive of means. Shut the door and go to your mother, I said. She didn't move. My daughter's eyes bounced between my face and the baseball bat I was holding.
Daddy?
She finally asked.
Are you scared?
No, I lied, trying to avoid the tremors in my arms. No, I'm not scared. Now go to your mother. The door shut. I was alone. I was alone with the thing beneath my daughter's bed. I opened the window. The creature would either flee or die. Somewhere in the distance of the dark neighborhood, a dog barked at the moon. Fresh air drifting into the room steadied me somewhat. Her unicorn covers draped over the sides of her bed. I was standing on my own in what looked like a little girl's bedroom. But I knew I wasn't alone. I knew that beneath those happy malformed horse cartoons, something horrid awaited me. With a deep breath and feet planted firmly on the ground, I lifted the edge of the covers with my baseball bat. Light. From beneath my daughter's bed came a light. It was a mere echo of that horrible crimson glare which burnt at the monstrosity's core, but the light still fortified my tremors. Beyond any doubts, I was certain that the thing my daughter called a squiggle had returned. I was scared. My mind filled with the razor-sharp memories of the week prior, and my knees started to buckle in fear. I was so desperately scared, but I buried that fear. I nudged the frame of the bed with my baseball bat. I did so with bated breath. I was certain that the horror would leap out as soon as I rustled its hiding place. Yet no sudden movement came. Instead, the thing simply stirred. I could hear its distressing limbs rubbing against the linoleum. The images that my imagination brought forth made my palms sweaty. I swung the bat at the bed frame as hard as I could. The creature beneath the bed rustled once more, but it refused to leave its hiding place. I could hear my wife calling my name. She wanted me to stop. She wanted me to return to the bedroom. But there was no turning back. I locked the door. I swung my bat once more. The impact reverberated through my teeth. I slammed down my metal club again. With every frenzied hit that I delivered, the writhing beneath the bed intensified, yet still, no creature presented itself for battle. Behind the door, my wife yelled for me to calm down. The hound outside howled into the dark night. Beyond my aching palms, a world existed, yet reality was punctured by the sounds of impact. Bonk. Cheap metal against flimsy wood. I was nothing but a frail mortal destroying furniture with sports gear, yet an inarticulate rage stained with panic and hopelessness burnt at my core. I convinced myself I could defeat the creature. I convinced myself that I stood a chance against the perplexing form of the unknown. Bonk. With every hit of my weapon, the lie that I had been telling myself strengthened into a facsimile of truth. I was starting to believe that I could face the abomination, that I could protect my family. Yet the light, the horrible shine that rustled beneath my daughter's bed, even a glimpse of that horrid glow was enough to make me want to flee. I shut my eyes and swung once more. Like a soldier leaping out of a trench towards no man's land, I gave up all semblance of rationality and prepared my body for combat. Bonk. My heart echoed in my ears like a frenzied war drum. Bonk. The screams of my wife, the howls of the foreign dog, the crackling of failing wood. The soundscape of the universe hushed down into one big calm before the storm. Bonk! I was a warrior. I was a man armed with a club, ready to protect my blood and home in any way necessary. Through the sheer terror in my soul, I found bravery. Bonk! Crash! The bed collapsed beneath my final strike, but my eyes refused to open. I could hear the thing move. I could hear the staccato of its sickening limbs moving slither my daughter's floor, but my eyes refused to open. Pete? I heard my wife from behind the door. What happened? Pete, are you okay? I opened my eyes. It sat there, on the windowsill, looking at me. Pete, come back to us. Peter, please, we're scared. I wanted to put an end to it once and for all. With every shred of control that I had left in my body, I ordered my hands to grip the club tighter. I ordered my body to fight. But it refused. Daddy? My daughter asked from behind the door. Daddy, what's happening? The baseball bat slid on my sweaty palms and clattered to the floor. I'd been a fool to think that I could face the creature in battle. I'd been a fool to think I could even look at its unspeakable form without succumbing to madness. I fell to my knees and wept. Past my tear-stained eyes, I could see the glowing beast crawl out of the window. It dropped into the bushes below with an almost imperceptible rustle. The nightmare was gone, but the damage it had caused was irreversible. My daughter is sleeping right now. She was confused about what happened in her room, and she was displeased with the new state of her collapsed bed frame, but when I told her not to ask questions, she obeyed. Her window was locked shut, and she is safe from the horrible knowledge of what I had seen. My daughter is sleeping in covers of unicorns on a mattress on the floor. My wife, however, is awake. I'm standing in the bathroom, dazed by the sight of what I had witnessed. My blood is still filthy with the chemical traces of my sleeping aids, My hands still ache from my impotent attempt at battle. My mind is still convulsing under the sheer weight of the horror that lurks in the night. I am a shell of a man, exposed for far too long to the true nature of reality, and my wife is awake, demanding an explanation. Whenever I try to speak of the thing, my throat is seized with an unspeakable discomfort. I cannot describe it. To even think of it makes my eyes flood once more. I cannot explain it. Each attempt at rationalizing the night's events sends a flurry of pain through my skull. I cannot speak of it, for I fear my mind cannot handle revisiting that soul-crushing terror. My wife is sitting vigil by our bedside lamplight, waiting for her husband to explain himself. But I do not know what to tell her. I do not know how to describe the storm that had been raging in my mind. I do not know how to explain my violent behavior. I do not know how to tell her I am scared. Is your roommate obsessed with vacuuming the apartment? Are you trying to avoid a crying infant on a plane? Can your shattered mind no longer bear the silence of our natural world? Well, boy, do I have news for you. With a cabinet of fever dreams, you can easily avoid all of your auditory issues. With a quick click on the search bar, you can find hours upon hours of short pulp horror to squirm in your ears. Find the Cabinet of Fever Dreams on your podcast platform of choice and say goodbye to the cacophony of the flesh and bone world. And now, back to your regularly scheduled programming, the final chapter of the Spaghetti Monster trilogy. I emerge from the bathroom and tell her everything. I tell my wife about the night I peered inside of our daughter's closet. I try to describe to her what I saw hiding in an abyss of children's clothing and little shoes, but my words do little justice to the horror I had witnessed. My explanations come through strained spittle and tears. The words tumble out of my mouth like a terrified drunken fever dream, but I persevere. I tell my wife about my latest confrontation with the incomprehensible being. I tell her about how I tried to defeat the beast with pure force, about how I thought that I could face the monstrosity in primal combat, about how I was rendered useless by the mere sight of the abomination. I tell her I am terrified of the monster that hides inside of our daughter's bedroom. Peter, she says, doing nothing to hide her doubt of my sanity. Have you considered this thing, this Squiggle? Have you considered it might not be real? Yes, I say, trying to ignore the pain her doubt stirs in my heart. I have spent countless nights trying to convince myself that everything I had seen was a mere byproduct of my imagination. But I am certain, Paula. I am certain that what I saw was real. Please, I know it all sounds horribly insane, but I need you to believe me. She doesn't answer. Instead, she just hugs me. I hold on to her like I am an astronaut, clutching onto the last length of cord that stops me from floating off into the abyss. She simply places her palms on my back. We should go to sleep, Peter, she says, after she gently pushes me away. It's been a long day. We should get some rest. Wordlessly, the lamplight is turned off and the room descends back into darkness. We lie next to each other in bed, but we are worlds apart. Do you believe me? I ask. I get no answer. The room is airless. Beads of sweat start to travel down my back. Outside there is a calm summer breeze, but opening the window is out of the question. I know the thing is out there. I know the thing is crawling through the grass, its hundreds of eyes searching for a way back into the house. Do you believe me? I ask, again. I know that the woman next to me is awake. I know that she can hear me, yet she doesn't respond. Each breath that I take is drenched in the stifling heat of the room. Each syllable of my plea drains at the little strength that I have left. Do you believe me? A gentle summer wind caresses my face. The sky is pitch dark, but the torch in my hand lights the way. I am back at a familiar cabin by the lake. The world is nothing but foggy silhouettes, but my feet know the way. I walk towards my father's lake house. The path crunches beneath my feet in an unfamiliar way. I'm not stepping on fallen leaves. I'm stepping on something else. I start considering lowering the torch to examine the path, but before the thought manifests into action, I see another light. By the pier, an oil lamp flickers. In its dim glow, a man stands in front of a blank canvas. "Welcome back," the unshaven drunk says as he mixes the paints in his palette. "Brave of you to return. You know little boys don't belong at the lake." I want to reply, but my voice is a choked whisper. My feet start to tingle. Something inside of me wants to turn back and run into the darkness of the forest. "Or perhaps you have forgotten," the painter says, laying his brush on the canvas. "You forget a lot of things, don't you, Peter? You forget to clean your room. You forget to say please and thank you. That you shouldn't disturb your father while he is working. Maybe the warnings about the lake are just another thing you completely forgot." His brush slides across the blank canvas. "No!" I yell. With a single stroke, I know what the cruel man is about to paint. "Please, no one should ever draw that." He laughs. His brush does not stop tracing the horrid shape. "Little boy, you do not belong here. You don't belong at the lake." I feel something crawling on my legs, but the canvas is considerably more distressing. I push past the grizzled drunk and rip the painting off the easel. The oil lamp cracks beneath the force of the painting. Its open flame feeds a fire. He laughs. Again. In the glow of the burning painting, his disdain for me is unmistakable. "Are you not scared, little boy? Are you not scared of the octopus that lives inside the lake?" Something is crawling up my back, but I pay it no mind. I lose all sense of my body. My horror consumes me completely. The fire, it does not consume the painting, it merely finishes it. Off the canvas, the creature stares at me with its many eyes. It reaches out to me with its shaking limbs. "You should be scared, little boy. You should be terrified of the octopus that lives inside of this lake. You should be scared because you know what it eats." The sight of that horrid being is so distressing, my body acts without input. I kick the painting into the water. With a splash and a hiss, it disappears into the darkness. "I'm not scared," I yell. "I'm brave." He leans close to me. I smell the gin on his breath. "You should be," he says. "You should be scared. Because in this lake there lives an octopus. And that octopus eats little vermin like you." A sudden burst of light crashes through the dark night. The pond flares up in an impossibly hot glow. Around my feet, I see insects and worms. The pier is covered with them. Yet the writhing life around me quickly becomes irrelevant compared to what is happening on the surface of the water. "There is nothing you can do now, little boy," he says, with horrid glee in his voice. "The octopus has seen you now. You belong to it." Those writhing tentacles reach out from beneath the water. My body refuses to move. I simply watch as the eyeball-covered strands of flesh wrap around my limbs. "Goodbye, Daddy. We're leaving now." I wake up with my face covered in sweat and tears. My daughter stands at the foot of my bed, holding a plastic unicorn. The sight of her sweet face, coated in the morning sunshine, soothes my soul for a split second, but her words catch up with me. "What?" I ask. "Mommy is taking me to Auntie Claire's. She said we're going to do a sleepover. Auntie Claire has real horses," she says, running her plastic horse over my leg. "Mommy said I should let you rest and that we should go, but I tricked her. I told her I needed to pee and I came to say goodbye to you instead." "Don't lie to your mother," I say, out of instinct. "Where is she?" "In the car." I sit up in bed. My pajamas are stuck to my back. A cough rattles through my chest. I feel worse than I ever have in my life. "Are you okay, Daddy?" she says, reaching out for my forehead. Her palm feels cool against my skin. "You have a fever." "I need to speak to Mommy," I say, getting out of bed. Every muscle in my body aches. "I'll be fine. I just need to speak to Mommy." She rolls up the windows as soon as she sees me. Before I am able to speak, I catch a glimpse of myself in the side view mirror. This sight impedes my speech further. A man with sunken eyes and a complexion of a drained corpse stares back at me. I am no longer the person my wife married. Please, Paula, I say, when words come back to me. I have not gone mad. I need you to believe me. She keeps her hands gripped around the steering wheel. All of her attention is spent on the empty driveway. A cough scratches its way through my throat. My entire body shudders beneath its weight. When I finally gain my voice, it is nothing but a whisper. Please, Paula, I say. Please don't leave me. She looks at me. From behind the glass, her eyes search mine for a hint of familiarity. They find it. She rolls down the window. Peter, I don't feel safe in the house, she says, her eyes turning wet. You drink constantly. I keep on waking up to find you muttering to yourself. You smashed up our kid's bed with a goddamn bat last night. And those insane rambles, I'm sorry, Peter. Annie can't sleep on the floor. I can't spend every second of the day worrying you might hurt her. I would never hurt her, I say. You know that, Paula. You might think that I've lost my mind with this Squiggle affair, but you know I would never harm our child. She knows I'm right. She can't sleep on the floor, Peter. Before I have a chance to reply, the backseat door of the car opens. My child climbs her way into her booster seat. When are we coming back, Mommy? She asks as she clips her little seatbelt. My wife searches my eyes once more. Her fear softens into sorrow. We'll come back when Daddy fixes your bed. Have fun with the horses, Annie, I say, choking back another cough. I will, she replies. Stay brave, Daddy. And so, they drive off. I'm left alone in the house. I am left alone with my fear. The box of tools is heavy in my aching hands, but I carry it regardless. When I reach the collapsed bed, however, I do not repair it. I simply collapse into the unicorn covers. The bed is far too broken, and the fever festering in my veins is far too draining. I close my eyes to rest. At first, it feels like sleep is within reach. The pain in my muscles starts to muffle beneath the coming wave of unconsciousness. My fevered mind calms. At first, it feels like sleep is within reach, but then I remember it. That horrid shape. That confounding nightmare. That portrait that should never be painted. I remember the Squiggle. My heart starts to race. A new crop of sweat pours over my back. I sit up. My daughter's closet looms before me, a cruel reminder of the horrors I had witnessed. If only I had shut the door the night I first saw the monstrosity. If I had been brave enough, the creature would no longer be an issue. I would have destroyed the closet, buried it, set it on fire, dropped it in a lake. I don't know what plan of violence I would have chosen, but I know that the Squiggle would have been destroyed. If I had been braver, my family would still be with me. Instead, when I saw the creature, I fainted. The bloody horse sticker on the closet taunts me. With another phlegm-coated cough, I answer its call. I don't try to clean the blood away this time. I try to rip off the whole sticker. The task is harder than it seems. My short nails refuse to hook behind the glue. The paper holds firm to the wood. I know that removing the sticker will do nothing. I know there will be the most impotent of symbolic gestures, but I do not give up. My sickly haunted mind is in dire need of even the smallest of symbolic victories. I tear at the wood, trying to get a grip on the horse's head, but all I manage to remove are small chunks of its crimson mane. I know that the bed behind me needs to be fixed. I know that I need psychiatric help, yet I also know that none of that can happen while the bloodied horse sticker still exists. I scratch and I scratch, slowly excavating the edges of the sticker, but then, just as I start to celebrate progress, my work is answered. From the inside of the closet, something scratches back. I claw at the sticker harder, trying to convince myself that I didn't hear anything. But the presence from the closet is unavoidable. A dozen limbs gently tap on the wood, inquiring to be let into the outside world. I lean against the closet door. I scratch harder. A madman in my heart screams about how the Squiggle is just a byproduct of my imagination, that there is nothing on the other side of the closet, yet those screams do not last long. Those screams wither in panic when the strands of flesh emerge. They sprout like plants of fiery skin from the corners of the closet. They crawl towards my fingers, watching me with their wet stares. I close my eyes. I continue scratching. I continue scratching until it's no longer possible. It wraps around my finger and tightens. Its grip is strong enough to cut off any attempts at movement. The strand clears the layer of glue from beneath my fingernail and crawls beneath it. A stinging sensation travels through my finger, soon through my wrist. The door of the closet opens. I can't bear to open my eyes. I try to tug back my body from the grasp of the beast, but the escape attempt is half-hearted. I know there is no negotiation with the tentacles. As my second hand gets enveloped in the beast's moist grasp, I give up. It feels like chunky clumps of fat are traveling up my veins. An army of cold, wet fingers crawl up my chest. Another cough strains my throat. My mouth opens. The tentacles use the opportunity. They slither through my mouth like sentient gummy worms. They crawl through my ears, leaving behind a faint ringing noise. They squirm under my eyelids and enter deep into my skull. The tentacles claim me fully, but I still hold on to the shred of hope that they are merely the result of a psychotic breakdown. I hear a voice, childlike but forged in utter primal energy, echoing through my soul. I hear a voice.
I real.
It says.
But you know scare, you know food, you too many bones.
The horror that is nesting beneath my skin tightens around my bones, as if it was trying to prove a point.
You know food, too many bones. Take me to Mama.
It says. I open my eyes. With exemption of children's clothing, the closet in front of me is empty. Yet in a single tug of the spine, I find myself turning. I find myself taking fumbled steps. I find myself shambling out of my daughter's bedroom. The stairs prove to be a problem. I fall down. Twice. Yet the numb pain that spreads through my body is of no interest to my puppet master. After every failure, my body hoists me back to my feet and continues to stagger forward. The longer the thing forces me to move, the more natural my walk becomes. By the time I leave my front door, my steps seem almost natural. There's people on the street. I try to get them to help me, to save me, to see there's something wrong, but the squiggle allows for no pleas.
You take me to Mama.
It whispers as it forces my eyes to my feet.
You take me now.
The cement of the street gives way to a forest path. The only people that pass by me are the occasional jogger. I try to call to them, but my mouth refuses to open. I try to cough to catch their attention, but the thing beneath my skin simply uses the rattles in my chest to get a better grip. I try to get help, but soon enough, I give up. The world beyond my skin feels like it's muffled beneath a thick coating of broken glass. I have no control over my body. I am simply a broken mind being carried by incomprehensible forces.
Mama.
The thing whispers as it forces me to march to lands unknown.
Mama close.
There's nothing to look at but my feet. The questions fill my sickly mind are far too terrifying to address. My soul wrestles reality with no victory in sight. Each step becomes indistinguishable from the last. We walk for an eternity. Crunch. The sun has set, but its dying rays still illuminate the forest path. Crunch. Past the fever, past exhaustion, past the terror, I try to get my eyes to focus. Crunch. I am stepping on cockroaches. Past the mud of the trail, I can see their sleek bodies trying to race ahead of me. With each step I take, they multiply. We are all moving towards the same place. We're all destined for the same fate.
Mama.
My feet stop at the edge of the path. Roaches before me continue crawling. They crawl through Mama. 1,000 pulsating veins, a fathomless flurry of cruel colors, a never-ending throat filled with dull teeth made of flesh. I cannot handle the sight of that terrible maw, but my head refuses to turn.
Mama.
cries the voice in my head. The horrid hole growls. The trees around us shake at the grisly tenor of its grunt.
Mama,
The thing inside me pleads.
no food, too much bone.
My skeleton is gripped once more, tighter this time. Try to back away from the blasphemous sight before me. With every sinew of my being, I try to preserve my life, yet my body refuses to bulge. Another howl comes from a perplexing mess of life in the hole. It extends its massive appendages towards me. My mind starts to waver. The horrid reality before me starts to blur.
Mama, no,
The thing inside me screams.
too much bone. No food, you hurt Mama, no.
My lips part, but no words leave my throat. Instead, a writhing mess of cold life travels out of my jaw.
Mama, too much bone, too much bone. No eat, Mama, no.
The mass of flesh stemming from the ground doesn't heed the warnings. It slithers towards me, its eyes watching me in starved anticipation. With my limbs frozen in a foreign grasp and a malicious slab of glowing hungry flesh extending towards me, I almost make peace with my fate. Almost. When we first moved to the house, Annie's speech barely surpassed a handful of syllables, but she was a nimble child. As soon as all the furniture was taken out of the containers, my daughter made use of the boxes for her make-believe games. To her, the cardboard wasn't the discarded byproduct of a journey across the country. To her, the cardboard boxes were stables and houses and castles. She had taken to jumping from one box to the other when I took my eyes off her. I simply left the living room to change the light bulb. It was a single moment of unsupervised play, but it made all the difference.
Dada,
She said, standing bloodied in a doorway to the bathroom.
Dada, help.
The radiator had split her forehead open. Her baby blue horse shirt was reddened by a steady stream of blood. She was in shock. She needed help. The whole affair was ended by a handful of stitches at the doctor's office, but the image, the moment of discovery, watching the blood slide past her scared eyes, that image was seared deep into my mind. I imagine what would have happened to Annie if I was not there to take care of her. I imagine what her life will be like once the inconceivable flesh monster in the woods consumes me. I imagine my daughter alone and helpless. The thought is more repulsive than the thousand-eyed flesh before me. A surge of rage consumes my muscles. Ownership of my body is pried back into my own hands. I find my fists gripped around the monstrosity peeking out of my throat.
Mama,
It screeches as I rip it out.
Mama, help.
My innards burn with agony as the creature's limbs desperately try to latch onto me, but the pain is imperceptible past my will to live. The mass of flesh before me roars in fury, but its eyes shift away from me. It watches its young. Even though the eyes are countless and its glowing flesh is foreign beyond words, I recognize a familiar look in the mess of eyeballs. It is scared. Eldritch abomination is scared for its young. The mass of flesh in my hands is far too tangled for a solid grasp, but I still manage to throw it at its maker. Once the squiggle leaves my palms, I turn and I run. I do not know where I am. I do not know where I am going. My whole body feels like it has been irreversibly intruded upon, yet my feet carry me regardless. Like a wild animal leaving the scene of a car collision, I run as far and as fast as my injured legs will take me. I wake up on my daughter's broken bed. For a moment, I just lie there, staring at the sticker-covered ceiling, trying to make sense of reality. With bated breath, I await another attack of panic and madness. I await more razor-sharp memories of the horrid beast and its progeny, yet none come. My body feels like a used rubber glove, yet the rattling in my lungs is gone. The events of the night prior are still in my mind, but the images of the horrid creature do not cut with the same sharpness as they once did. The fever is gone. The fear is gone. I consider whether the squiggle was ever real to begin with. The bed is still broken. My family is still gone. The blood-eat sticker still looms above my daughter's closet, yet my mind relents. I consider whether the squiggle might have been a byproduct of my imagination, and I convince myself that it was. Deep inside, I know that it is a lie. At the core of my being, I know that those bright, gazing limbs are something that exists within our realm. Yet I do not allow myself to ponder on the squiggle. There are more important things at hand. The bed has to be repaired. My marriage has to be fixed. The bloodied horse sticker has to be removed. With a promise to never think of the squiggle again, I get off my daughter's bed and boot up my computer. I search online for advice on removing stickers from wood. The faceless masses of the internet recommend a piece of cloth soaked in white vinegar. It works like a charm. I open the window to air out the faint smell of a nosebleed. With the sticker removed, I move on to the next task. The damage on the bed frame is bad, but it is not impossible to repair.